time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to a new episode of The Oil Stream. Nielsen and Gazzola with you, and Tommy, it's great to be back in North America. How you doing, buddy?
Big Daddy Davos, great to have you back in North America. Although you had a pretty good sojourn, I would say. I liked what I saw from Davos, and I liked what I saw on your social media because you are a tremendous influencer, as we all know. But I hope you had a great time because everything I saw looked awesome.
Yeah, I would like to suggest right now that Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen expands to Switzerland and specifically Davos. I'd love to have a Popeye's chicken sandwich when I'm over in Switzerland next year for the Spengler Cup. I can't help but think at one point Shore from the Oilers will be playing for Team Canada over there. I think it fit in well. There were so many former Oilers at the Spengler Cup, man. It was wild. Like every team had at least one. Like there was at least one on all six teams. It was wild. It was Eero Pakarainen, captain of Helsinki, but also scratched at times. It's wild. It's a wild event. It's just littered with former Oilers. Talked to Perlini a little bit when I was over there. He's in the American League right now with a very young Chicago team, and he's not really enjoying it too much just because the team's so young. Like he's 26, wants to get going. A lot of younger guys there, so he's having a little bit of he's having an okay season, but I don't know if he's really enjoying himself there right now. But he still looked good, man. He didn't score, but he was nobody scored on Team Canada. They scored 4 goals in 3 games, but Perlini was buzzing around a little bit. I didn't mind his game.
What I liked was when I asked you when you were a guest on your very own show last week, and I said, hey, Dusty, which obscure Finnish or European player will the Oilers sign? You immediately had an answer. So I look forward to the day whoever you named.
Yeah, Vili Saariarvi. I think they'd have to trade for him. I think somebody has his rights right now, but he's shifty little right shot D-man, you know? So,
Put it out there.
It was good.
Put it out there.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, back to the Oil Stream here. Nothing says bringing in the New Year 6 days later like a Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen chicken sandwich. Absolutely delicious. Thanks to Popeye's being on board. Actually, got a call a little bit later on today with Furby from Popeye's, so we're going to chat about some things. We're going to get to your Boston Pizza Appetizer. We'll get to some inside the number stuff for Cool Bet as well. But, Tommy, obviously it's tough to actually, it's almost amusing following the market from afar and just watching the ups and downs, like having not having to talk about it, not having to do anything, just to sit back and watch it. And it's just like, woo, like the whole time I was gone. I watched last night's game. That was the first game I watched from start to finish since I left. So before we get to that, what's the vibe? What's the vibe right now around this team? Tell me how it's been since Christmas, I guess.
Okay, since Christmas, they've put together some good games. The wins have been good wins where, you saw yesterday, just a solid game against the Islanders, and you go, oh, there's the team that went to the conference final last year. They did that against the Seattle Kraken last Friday. They had a really good performance in Dallas, getting a win there, again, convincingly. But since you've been gone, I mean, they've soiled the sheets against the Kraken. Earlier this week, they had a great opportunity to dump on the Canucks. They had a 2-0 lead in that game. They pissed it away, and that was the ebbs and flows and the roller coaster ride that we've been going through. Now the fan base wants trades. One night they're yelling at Kenny Holland, saying he should get fired. The next day they're saying he needs to make a deal. The next day they're saying McDavid and Draisaitl are all the Oilers have. Some people were suggesting you trade those two. It was all over the map, and it just depended on the game and the situation, how they lost, how they won, and it just went from one end of the pendulum to the other end of the pendulum, and the way it swung back and forth. And they still tread water despite these up and down results. They are still right there, and they had a team meeting, just a players-only meeting going into this game yesterday. Man, it's just been all over the map. It's been incredibly frustrating, but there's never been a dull moment. There's always been something to talk about. This team is a walking, talking soap opera, essentially.
Well, it's wild because the one thing they have going for them right now, in my opinion, is that the whole bottom half of the conference kind of sucks.
Yes.
You know, like there's basically 9, maybe 10 teams fighting for playoff spots. That all depends on what happens with St. Louis, because St. Louis is what's St. Louis right now. They're 3 points back. They've got a game in hand on them. Colorado's 3 points back, but has 3 games in hand on them.
Yeah.
So certainly, I mean, they're only 4 points up on Nashville as well. So they've got that going for them. Like it's not like there's 9 teams knocking on the door here. They're basically in a battle with 4 or 5 teams for a wild card spot right now, if that's how you want to view it. So they've got that for them. They've been able to tread water. They're still the first wild card as of today, right? So not ideal, that's for sure. But let's kind of bring up something that you laid it on nice too. Like I'd pop in a Twitter, and it'd usually be the middle of the day or really late at night for you guys over here. Like I get up at like 8, hop on Twitter. It's like an hour or 2 after the game ended. I'm looking around. They're like, this is the Oilers team that's going to take them to the cup. And then like 2 days later, it's like, blow this shit up. I was just like, what is happening over there right now? So it was a fun, wild ride, that's for sure. But you did mention one thing in there that I think is worthy of the Boston Pizza Appetizer. We're going to have another on-location broadcast with Boston Pizza, probably like January 24th-ish. That's a Tuesday. It's not locked in just yet, but that's a date that we're kind of targeting right now. So we'll confirm that over the next week here or so and let you know where you can join us. But Tommy, this players only pre-practice meeting, players only, like it's just so I don't know, is this a good thing, is this a bad thing? Like what do we make of this players only discussion here?
These happen. I feel like pretty much almost every team has one of these at least once a season. It's when you get into the multiple player only meetings in a season and you're like, this team's in trouble. But I mean, you're approaching the midway point. This team has not lived up to its expectations. They've dropped games that they should have won, like I mentioned. And, you know, I suppose this was them kind of airing the grievances and, you know, delaying Festivus a little bit. But they had to get it out there, as Matty Cassian put it out on the pregame show, is like, you know, harsh realities are brought to the table. Everybody gets out what they need to. It's a self-check, if you will, and an opportunity for people to kind of whatever was bottled up in terms of frustration, things that were annoying, they got it out there, and now they can go and try to work in unison towards putting together a stronger, better, more consistent second half. And it paid off yesterday. You know, the team played good. It simplified. You know, how much that meeting had to do with it, you know, I'm sure some of it comes from that meeting and guys like waking up and being like, you know what, we might blow this season with how crappy we're playing. And so we'll see where it goes from here. But I don't think it's alarming or anything like that. And Dusty, another thing, like Jay Woodcroft said, what meeting? Oh, I wasn't part of it. I wasn't made aware. That's him being coy. He's been very frustrated with his team.
He knows what's up, right?
Absolutely. He's dialed into his team. That's just him kind of playing with the media and the fan base. And he did that the other night after the Seattle loss too. He said a few things that people are like, what is he talking about? Is he delusional? And it's like, no, he's saying this deliberately to you know, kind of get people into a tizzy, to take the focus off of the other issues that he probably internally wants to work on. So it's been funny that way too. It really has been. But this players only meeting, you know, maybe it had to happen. And if it has the results that are desired and so far so good, then okay, whatever. These things do happen.
I was thinking like what some of the messaging could have been in that meeting. And, you know, those are usually called by leaders. So whether it's David Draisaitl, Nurse, that core or whatever, I mean, meeting's not going to get called without those guys being the driving force behind it, I would think. And I mean, if you want to read into the game against the Islanders, it looked like they said, hey guys, let's have a better fucking start. It's as simple as that, you know? Yeah. And because I thought their first period, and I hadn't seen them play in a couple of weeks, but I watched every other game prior to heading over to Switzerland for Christmas. I thought that was one of their best first periods of the entire season. Like, and yeah, they had some lulls along the way in the game, but overall, I thought it was a pretty complete game. But I thought that first period was straight fire. We've seen that team have that type of period in the second or the third. We haven't seen many first periods like that. Like the way they played in the first, to me, was how they play when they're down 4-2 or 4-3 in the third. So I don't know if it was pull your heads out of your asses and start games on time and have a wake-up call, but I mean, it would make sense if that was message and priority number one in a players' meeting, I would think.
To their credit, and this was in that chunk of time while you were gone, they actually had some decent starts. They really did, but they pissed them away. And
blew a bunch of 2-goal leads, right?
The Vancouver game, the Seattle game. I mean, yesterday we're up in the press box, and Rashog and I are sitting there, and they were up 2-0 early in that second period, and we're going, okay, well, right around this point in the game, we were at the 16 minutes left on the clock in the second period mark, and we're like, this is when they start to let it slip. The other night against the Seattle Kraken. And sure enough, a couple minutes later, Barzal scores, and we're like, 2-1.
And then they hit that post. It would have been 2-2, yeah.
Was it Fashing hit the post, hit it solid, and then the Oilers go back, and they get that goal from Holloway, so they get a little bit of luck, and then they take advantage of an opportunity, and it was a different script at the end of the night. But it's funny, because you bring up how bad the starts were earlier, which they absolutely were. They start getting good starts, but then they're blowing leads. And we use this metaphor and description on the post-game show a couple of times. It's like whack-a-mole, man. Like they take care of a few problems, and then other ones just keep popping up.
That is what it's like. You're right.
It's incredible. And I think that was probably part of the messaging in the players-only meeting as well. Hey, Bouchard, simplify your game. Hey, Darnell, simplify your game. Enough of this cute crap, trying to do too much. It's costing us. Things like that. Those are just examples, and me speculating as to what was said.
It's a conversation that we'll definitely have in about a month and 4 days, because February 10th will be the 1-year anniversary of Jay Woodcroft taking over for this team. And obviously, great run down the stretch last year, great push in the playoffs. He's now been here for 11 months. The team's in a wild card spot. They just had a players-only meeting. They're still in a pretty good spot as far as making the playoffs again goes. How would you summarize the first 11 months here under Jay Woodcroft? And I only bring this up now because of that meeting and the way that you said, he's been pretty coy about things lately. Like, what have you thought of the first 11 months?
Better than adequate, and most of that has to do with the run that they went on. Yeah. This year has been subpar, simply put. What he did last year and galvanizing the team, that was, far and away better than what everyone expected, which is great. And I think he kind of helped that group realize some of its potential. But I also think that this season, Jay Woodcroft is learning the same things that Dave Tippett learned about this group, that Ken Hitchcock had to deal with the time prior to Tip coming in, and what Todd McLellan had to go through. And, now it's the test for Woodcroft to try to pass and do better than his predecessors at trying to navigate this group and keep their heads in check to not fall into that same trap and lull that it got itself into under McLellan. I mean, Hitchcock didn't really have much of a chance. And then with Tippett. And so, man, it's the same crap popping up with these guys. And all along, I've said it on this show, I've said it on your show, I've said it on my show. It's between their ears collectively. And I think it's been proven now.
Did you read Speck's article that he had about the team yesterday?
Yeah, I've read them all. Of course, like Speck watches and listens to what we do. I do the same. I read and watch and see what he has to. It's just.
What'd you think? What'd you think of his article? Like, because when the team's on a high, Speck will write good stuff. When they're on a low, he kind of rides the roller coaster of the team. And I thought it was a rather. I was going to say a scathing article, but that's not what it was. It was a reality check. Was it not kind of a reality check of where this team's at right now?
Yeah, like we're talking about the veterans and all of that.
Yeah, the veterans not being there and maybe them not being a team. And I think he talked about Fogle and a couple other guys. But, what'd you think?
I think it was pretty accurate, but I don't know. Listen, Chris Russell, he's that old cowboy up type of mentality, and he didn't play much last year, but you can set a precedent as a veteran with your attitude and all of that, and younger guys can pick up on it, which is great. I'm sure Duncan Keith, and it sounds like Duncan Keith was a pretty good leader. Hard not to be when you're that caliber of player with that type of hardware that he accumulated over the course of his career. And yes, Mike Smith could be a bit of a spark plug indeed, but man, if you need guys basically yelling and screaming and reaming you out to get going throughout the course of an 82 game season, that's a problem. So yeah, they are missing a bit of that element. Do they need guys to kind of keep each other, honest and all that? Yeah, absolutely. But I still think that this team can do it without old guys yelling at them. I really do. But even Tyson Barrie kind of admitted to it. He's like, I got to step up. I got to say some things, because he is a pretty relaxed, fun guy to be around. He's a joker and stuff. But when it's time to get down to business, get down to effing business. And these guys who've been around for a while need to say it in the room, and then do it on the ice. And, their veterans haven't always done it on the ice.
The thing that I found very interesting about the piece, and I thought Spec hit the nail on a bunch of the things, but it was a piece about, lack of a team together, a piece about, veterans moving on that haven't been replaced. But then he also did mention that this is not a McDavid and Draisaitl issue, but right. McDavid and Draisaitl are the leaders of this team. You know what I mean? Like if there's a leadership problem with the group because veterans have moved on, I mean, it's either on those guys in the leadership core to lead this group, or it's, you have to admit that, they can be the captain and they can be an assistant, but they still need a veteran guy around. And I guess that's what Spec was getting to, that this group, if you're looking to add somebody here, you're looking to add a veteran guy. Simple as that.
And he's right. Like, you're not bringing in a young guy or anything like that. But at some point, and this isn't the same as 2017-18, although in some ways it is similar, at some point, you do need to take the training wheels off. Dad can only push you on the bike for so long before you need to start pedaling and make it happen on your own. Like, that goes for Evan Bouchard. Philip Broberg's a little bit behind. It's way past that point for Jesse Puljujarvi, way past that point for Kyler Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go and get it. And there's enough veterans and NHL experience among the rest of the group that, they should be okay in theory, but they haven't been.
Yeah, it leads to some of the inconsistency issues that this group certainly has to deal with. When they're great, when they're on, they're great. Yeah. When they're not on, I mean, they have the opportunity to fall behind early and blow it. There's really no middle ground. It's as simple as that.
I'll say one last thing, Dusty, and it's the support staff and secondary players on this team. On good NHL teams, Stanley Cup caliber contenders, it's the third, fourth line guys. It's the third pairing defensemen. Like, there always seems to be this onus on them to take on some of the responsibility and live up to what the stars of the team are doing. And I think that's what a sign of a great team is. And right now, even though we look at these guys on paper and say they should be capable of doing that, they really haven't pulled their weight. They've been watching and they're passengers on most nights, letting Connor and Leon and Hyman and Nugent Hopkins do all the work, when really they should be trying to live up to the bar being set by those other guys so that they could be a team that rises above the rest. And I feel like good NHL teams, the contenders, have guys, secondary players who do that and take it on themselves to make it happen.
Justin Bailey was on an AHL deal. They signed him to a two-way deal. Does that change anything, really? I mean, this isn't a guy that all of a sudden I think is like, nobody's been saying, hey, man, he's got to get a look. It just seemed kind of interesting. It almost feels like there was a promise made, like, play in the American League for a bit, we'll give you a two-way deal at some point, which happens. I mean,
that's what happened with Demers. That was the deal. Like, you be a good soldier, we'll get you on a deal. And that might be the case for Bailey. I know he has NHL experience. He's a big dude. Maybe he has a little sandpaper. I don't necessarily think he's all of a sudden at the top of the list to get a call up, but I could be proven wrong. Maybe they want a little infusion of size and sandpaper at some point. It kind of surprised me, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out. They do get the Colorado. I picked the wrong day to wear this. I totally forgot they were playing the Avalanche this weekend.
How dare you?
Yeah, exactly. What is Ilsa doing? I'm like wearing the same hoodie he wears every 7 days.
Yeah, OEG will be calling you and saying, how dare you not
I'm done.
The Edmonton Oilers.
Hey, well, if they want to send me free swag, I'll wear that too. Stay cool, bet responsibly with the partners at CoolBet. Obviously, you can bet on this game on Saturday. The line isn't out there just yet. It's a big game. Colorado trying to get a little bit healthier here. As of right now, the defending Stanley Cup champions are out of a playoff spot, but there's a long way to go there as well, and they're gonna get healthy here at some point. But Tommy, what are you expecting? What are you expecting from this game on Saturday?
Honestly, don't know. I mean, every time I try to predict, or we look for trends with the Oilers, they do the complete opposite. So they had a good game the other night, and now they get the Avalanche, who are walking wounded. They're missing some very key players. They're still treading water themselves. They have a target on their back for being defending Cup champs. This lines up favorably for the Edmonton Oilers, but the last 3 or 4 games that have lined up favorably for the Edmonton Oilers, they have failed miserably. So I should almost say expect them to soil the sheets tomorrow, but maybe they actually continue this good play and carry over what they did yesterday into this game Saturday. But I, at this point, don't know, because I think you could flip a coin and whatever way it falls, you'd be like, well, that's what they'll probably do.
Yeah, they could win 6-1. They could lose 6-1. It's a tough team to bet on right now. It's a tough team to get a vibe on, unless you can adjust the over down a little bit and just take the over most nights. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the Oil Stream, our first of 2023. Back on our 2 per week schedule. Watch for the odd Oil Stream and 5 tossed in there as well. It's all presented to you by our wonderful partners over at Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. If you want to enjoy some Saturday chicken nugs for the Oilers and Avs, make sure you pick those up and get it done on DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, and Uber Eats. Tommy, good catching up. Thanks for filling in for me for the last 2.5 weeks. And if you ever want to get up early for no reason, just text me. You can slide in and do the show, okay?
Oh, I don't even know what day it is. My body is completely out of sync. And
welcome to my life,
I'm
dude.
Sleep for like 24 hours straight. I don't know how you do it, buddy. I'm just so glad you're back.
All right, you get some rest, man. We'll talk next week.
Sounds good, Dusty.